In this video, we'll take a look at the various documents that a conservator over the respondent's property is required to file with the court. As a conservator over the property for a person with a disability, you are required to file a conservatorship inventory unless the court explicitly waives the inventory requirement in its written order. Every jurisdiction is different, but in Davidson County, you can download a form to help you complete the inventory from the Probate Court Clerk's website. The Probate Court Clerk's website is circuitclerk.nashville.gov/probate. From there, you can click on Forms on the left side. Scroll down the Forms page to the section titled Conservatorship, Estate, Guardianship, and Trust Forms. Click on Conservatorships Inventory. Make sure to fully provide the information requested on the form. For example, be sure to include all personal property items owned by the respondent, such as checking accounts, savings, or other brokerage accounts, furs, jewelry, livestock, and farm equipment. Additionally, any safety deposit box contents and vehicles need to be included. You will also need to list all real property. Real property means any land, houses, or any other buildings owned by the respondent. In other words, real estate. For both personal property and real property, you will need to also let the court know of any partial property ownership interests. So for example, say the respondent owns 3 acres of land in East Nashville, but she owns it jointly with her 2 sisters. The court still needs to know about that property, and the court needs to know the amount of her ownership interest. You will need to list the amount, frequency, and all of the respondent's income sources in the inventory, in addition to listing all of the respondent's personal property and real property. For example, if the respondent receives a paycheck, a pension, or Social Security income, that all needs to be detailed on the inventory. Once you have fully completed your inventory, it is your responsibility as the conservator to make sure that everyone who is legally entitled, in other words, all interested parties, receives a copy of the inventory. Once you complete the inventory, you will need to file it with the court. In Davidson County, you'll file the inventory at the Probate Court Clerk's office on the 3rd floor of the historic courthouse in Suite 303. Additionally, unless the court explicitly waives the requirement of a bond in its written order, as a conservator, you are required to file your bond documents with the court. A bond is like an insurance policy that helps to protect the money and other property of the respondent. The court will tell you how much the bond needs to be set for in your case in its written order. The formula that is used to estimate the appropriate bond amount is the value of all of the respondent's assets, except for real estate, which is not included in the calculation of bond, plus all reasonably anticipated income for the year. For example, say the respondent owns about $58,600 in personal property. he receives $1,500 each month in Social Security, so for a year, that would be about $18,000 in Social Security. He also has a pension that pays the respondent $2,000 a month, in other words, $24,000 a year. Added up, it equals $100,600. So the court would likely set the bond amount at $100,600. Now remember how we just covered how real estate is not used in the bond calculation? While that's true, there's an important thing to keep in mind. If real estate is ever to be sold, the conservator must get permission from the court before selling it. Once the real estate is sold, the money received in the sale is added to the bond calculation formula and may affect the bond amount. It is also important to note that the court has the discretion in setting the bond. In some courts, the judge may decide it is in the best interest of the person with a disability to waive the bond on conservatorships in which the value of the property is under $10,000. There are additionally other factors in the law that the courts rely on when setting the bond. As a conservator over the property of a person with a disability, a property management plan is required unless the court explicitly waives the property management plan requirement in its order. A property management plan is a court-approved budget that tells the court what type of payments you are going to make from the respondent's assets and how you will invest any remaining assets. Every jurisdiction is different, but in Davidson County, you can find the property management plan form on the probate court clerk's website. The probate court clerk's website is circuitclerk.nashville.gov/probate. From there, you can click on Forms on the left side. Scroll down the Forms page to the section titled Conservatorship, Estate, Guardianship, and Trust Forms. Click on Conservatorships Property Management Plan. Even if you have previously provided information requested to the court, be sure to fully provide the information requested on the form. Make sure to include all conservatorship financial accounts and the respondent's income and expenses. In a conservatorship case in Tennessee, state law governs investments of conservatorship assets. In almost every conservatorship case, the court must approve an investment of a conservatorship asset before the investment is made. In addition to providing guidance on investments, state law helps to guide the conservator in how the respondent's money can be spent. For example, state law allows for the payment of the cost of a medical examination, guardian ad litem fees, bond premium, court costs, attorney's fees, income tax preparation, investment management fees, and taxes. Make sure to note, however, that the guardian ad litem fees, attorney's fees, income tax preparation, and investment management fees must receive prior court approval before payment. Additionally, within the authority given by the court, the conservator may make reasonable expenditures benefiting the respondent. The standard used for expenses is whether or not they are reasonable. In other words, whether the expense protected or benefited the respondent, and that the payment was in the best interest of the respondent. Check with your attorney to help you to identify which expenses are appropriate, and of the appropriate expenditures, which require court pre-approval. Once you complete the property management plan, you will need to file it with the court. In Davidson County, you'll file the property management plan at the probate court clerk's office on the 3rd floor of the historic courthouse in Suite 303. In addition to inventory, property management plan, and bond documents, as a court-appointed conservator of the respondent's property, you are required to file conservatorship accountings unless the court explicitly waives the requirement of accountings in its written order. There are 3 types of accountings in a conservatorship case: interim, annual, and final. The interim accounting is due 6 months from the date you are appointed as conservator. The interim accounting should demonstrate that the accounts listed in the inventory have been properly closed and the funds placed into newly opened conservatorship accounts. For more information on how to set up a conservatorship account, please take a look at the OCM educational video, Setting Up a Conservatorship Account, which can be found on the OCM's website, which is officeofconservatorshipmanagement.nashville.gov. Once you have filed an interim accounting, the next accounting you will be responsible for will be the annual accounting. Now please note that even though it is called an annual accounting, the first annual accounting is due 12 months from the date the interim accounting was due. So for example, say you were appointed on January 1st. Your interim accounting would be due on July 1st. After that, your annual accountings are due each July in the future. The third type of accounting is the final accounting. A final accounting is due when a conservator resigns, is removed, or upon death of the respondent. Now that you know what the 3 different kinds of accountings are, let's take a closer look at the annual accountings. Each accounting should include a detailed list and description of all the property owned by the respondent. Every jurisdiction is different, but in Davidson County, you can find conservatorship accounting forms to help you complete the accountings on the probate court clerk's website. The probate court clerk's website is circuitclerk.nashville.gov/probate. From there, you can click on Forms on the left side. Scroll down the Forms page to the section titled Accounting Forms Packets. The Accounting Forms packet includes a very useful checklist that helps to guide the conservator in compiling a complete accounting. The first item on the checklist refers you to the form included in the packet titled Detailed Interim Annual Accounting Conservatorship. This form should reflect the combined totals of the accounts obtained from each financial information form total. In other words, it gives a very broad overview of the respondent's assets, income, and expenditures. The conservator must verify and swear that the totals listed on this form are correct. Next on the checklist are the list of financial accounts and financial information forms. The list of financial accounts form is where the conservator lists each financial account the respondent owns and the corresponding information for each. Each account on the list of financial accounts form should have a corresponding financial information form. Each financial information form provides the court with a summary of receipts and disbursements for each account. You will also need to include all financial statements and canceled check images, if any, for each account. The next form on the checklist is the Probate Accounting Register. On this form, you will provide a detailed list of receipts and expenditures. You must include transaction details such as the date, payee, check or debit, and amounts and balances. Please note a separate register must be used for each account. The next item on the checklist is for financial statements. Financial statements for all financial accounts must be provided. For example, statements for checking, savings accounts, certificates of deposit, annuities, stock accounts, mutual funds, brokerage accounts, and the like must be included in your accounting. Statements provided must pertain to the accounting period for which they are filed. In addition, images of canceled checks or the actual canceled checks are required. The conservator should also include copies of receipts for purchases made from an account owned by the respondent. Next is the annual status report. For information about how to file an annual status report, please visit the OCM website. The website is officeofconservatorshipmanagement.nashville.gov, and take a look at the OCM educational video titled Introduction to Duties and Reporting. To complete your accounting, you will also need to include a certificate of service. The certificate of service certifies that copies of the accounting and supporting documents have been provided to all interested parties, usually by mail. A complete accounting also requires the latest IRS 1040 tax return cover sheet and statement. If the respondent is required to file a tax return, you must include a complete copy of the tax return, including all forms and schedules filed along with the return. If the respondent is not required to file a tax return, you must provide the substantiated reason why a return was not required. The best way to do this is by providing the respondent's gross amount of income. In other words, amounts from the SSA 1099, all other 1099s, W-2s, those types of items, and attach the applicable IRS document that demonstrates the reason why a return is not required. A good resource to help you to determine if a respondent is required to file a tax return can be found at the IRS website, specifically irs.gov/forms-pubs/about-publication-501. Click on the current publication 501. Publication 501 should answer basic questions such as who must file a tax return. In general, even if an income tax return is not required, you should still file a tax return if the respondent had income tax withheld from wages, pensions, or you made estimated tax payments so that you can receive a refund for the respondent if applicable. Though this website may help guide you, please make sure to check with your attorney or certified public accountant to ensure that the taxes for the respondent are being properly managed and reported. If no tax return is due, a statement must be submitted to the court which states that no tax return is due, the gross income, and the information from the IRS or the Tennessee Code annotated which shows approval of the exemption. In addition, A corporate surety statement, which states that the bond is still in effect and for what amount, must be included if the bond has not been waived. Lastly, a property management plan certification form must be completed and included in the annual accounting to let the court know that an accurate property management plan is on file with the court and that there have been no changes in the budget. In addition to understanding how to file an accounting, it is also important to understand what the consequences are for failing to timely file your accounting. If you fail to submit your accounting when it is due, you risk citation, being summoned to a show cause hearing, and being held in contempt of court. You may also be subject to monetary consequences, including having a money judgment placed against you. So you'll want to make sure to be cognizant of when your annual accountings are due, mark your calendar accordingly, and file your annual accounting on time each and every year. The filing of an accounting opens the floor to critiques of the accounting or management of the conservatorship assets. For example, if someone disagrees with the accounting because they believe the conservator has failed to account for all of the respondent's assets, or if they believe that an expenditure was inappropriate, they can let the court know the specifics of the concern by filing the information at the probate court clerk's office. Though it may seem complicated and overwhelming at first, after you complete your first accounting, you should begin to feel ease in the routine. The time and service you spend helping an individual with a disability are invaluable. The person you are serving needs your help, your compassion, and your organized and responsible management of his money and other property. Make sure when you're making any decision as a conservator to always choose what is in the best interest of the person with the disability. Now remember, the information contained in this video is not intended to be legal advice and should not be relied upon as such. If you have any questions, or if you are unsure of your responsibilities as a conservator, make sure to talk with your attorney. Thank you so much for your service as a court-appointed conservator.
The Davidson County Probate Court Clerk's Office now has electronic filing, also known as e-filing. Therefore, you may file your annual status report and any other required documents, such as property management plans and accountings, by electronic filing, mail, hand delivery, or by fax. Keep in mind that fax filing requires an additional fee. To access electronic filing, you can visit the Probate Court Clerk's Office website at circuitclerk.nashville.gov and click on the link labeled e-file. There, you will be redirected to the Davidson County e-filing system. Thank you so much for your service as a court-appointed conservator.